everyone, hope you're doing well. Quick question to start the video with. How do you know Sebastian Haller has scored a goal for Ajax? West Ham social media, tell you about it. The debate's back. The debate is back. Last night, Sebastian Haller obviously had a massive influence on Ajax's dominating and thumping victory over Dortmund in Champions League. He's now got 6 goals in the competition over 3 games, 6 goals in the Dutch league as well. Sebastian Haller is in fine form for Ajax. He's almost increasing his profile again to be perceived as one of the top strikers in European football currently. And that's part of the debate on social media. And sometimes when you do this channel, I think it's important to keep your finger on the pulse as to what's going on, what the debates are, and often bring that to a video format and discuss it with the YouTube viewers and read the comments, so on and so forth. Let social media provide content, especially when you don't know anything else to talk about, as I am today. But I tend to ignore it unless it's something I feel strongly enough about, and that is something I feel strongly enough about. This is Sebastian Haller and the Felipe Anderson thing, for different reasons perhaps. And I'll get onto that in a minute. I'm going to start with a quick disclaimer. If you don't want a disclaimer, skip about a minute, because I hate doing these. I hate disclaimers in videos, but sometimes they're important. Often I won't do one because I just assume people will know what the disclaimer is, and it's wrong. You get the comments that justify the disclaimer almost. For example, let's just say tomorrow night West Ham get beat by Genk, right? Let's just say Genk beat West Ham tomorrow night 1-0, and we play poorly. And myself and Gonzo will do the review, and we'll basically say, we're a bit crap today. Should have won that game. That was a game that we should have been winning. Moyes did that wrong, and this wrong, and we thought these players played poorly. Not a good result. And fine, I guarantee you, a few people in the comments will say, yeah, but we've won 2 out of the 3 games, so what are you complaining about? Well, we're discussing the game only. It's a review of the match, not of the Europa League campaign so far. So sometimes you need disclaimers. So here's my disclaimer for this one. Before sometimes get over it, they've left. I'm not upset or angry. I'm here to discuss a few things in regards to the transfers itself a little bit. But anyway, disclaimer over and done with. Let's chat. My opinion on Sebastian Haller. A lot of people use his form at Ajax since moving as a way of justifying whether they were right. Or I would say, wrong. No one justifies that they were wrong, do they? No one ever says, here's the reasons why I was wrong about Sebastian Haller leaving West Ham. Let me present to you evidence. No one does that. They only use it to prove that they were right. Whether that is the fee was too low, whether he's a top striker, we could have done more, blah, blah, blah. A whole list of excuses. My opinion on Sebastian Haller and the transfers hasn't changed. I thought when we signed him, one of the top strikers in European football at the time with Frankfurt, I thought he was unbelievable. I thought the way Frankfurt played football was thoroughly enjoyable. Him, Jovic and Rebic were fantastic as a trio. And I thought West Ham getting him was a bit of a coup. I felt that was a bit of a coup. I thought 45 million at the time was a fair fee. Now, how wrong was I? Okay, I got it wrong. Because it was a disaster of a transfer for West Ham. However, he's still a quality player. I still think he is a top striker. I did it when he was at West Ham. I still do today. My opinion on him as a striker hasn't changed. But the move to West Ham was wrong. It was wrong for Sebastian Haller and it was wrong for West Ham United as well. And also the finances of the club. But the club and the player. He didn't suit Pellegrini. He didn't suit Moyes. Moyes and Pellegrini didn't suit Sebastian Haller. We never got to see the best of him. I thought we got glimpses of the best of Sebastian Haller on a couple of occasions. Scored some fantastic individual goals as well. Some strikes he scored. You thought, wow, now we got the player. But we didn't see enough. And it's always going to be a bit one of those players that, what if? What if we did that or this or that? Because we will see him perform. He will do well for Ajax. And if he moves somewhere else, which I think he will, and that's part of the reason I want to do this video, I think he will perform well for them. And we as West Ham fans will look upon it and think, could we have had that Sebastian Haller? No, we couldn't have. Because he didn't suit us. And I don't think we didn't play to his strengths. We didn't do enough to see the best of Sebastian Haller. However, he didn't deserve it. I don't think he did enough to warrant it either. And I think not building a team around him is the correct thing to do. And while I speak about evidence to justify your means, I think Moyes has evidence to justify that as well. Like I said, people look for evidence to say my opinion on Sebastian Haller was right. Moyes has got plenty of evidence to suggest that how he acted with Sebastian Haller was correct. We're playing European football. Yes, okay, he's in Champions League with ours. But West Ham ended up qualifying for European football without changing the way we play. With playing the way the manager wanted to play with Mikel Antonio up front, it worked. And I know someone will come back and say we were 4th when we signed Sebastian Haller and we finished 6th. But I don't think it's as straightforward as that, because Sebastian Haller wasn't going to cover for Declan Rice's injury when he got injured last season, and we dropped the majority of points in that period, was he? No. So there's no evidence that having Haller would have seen us climb higher than the table. Quality player, bad transfer. It happens. It happens. Top players always make bad moves, and top clubs always make bad transfers as well. And it's just one of them things. We draw a line under it and we move on. And I have. But last night I got a little bit worried. Well, it was last week. I seen the report that Dortmund are lining up their targets if Alan goes somewhere. As he's expected to go to Real Madrid probably, but if not, the likes of PSG, Manchester City, and that will be taking a look at him as well for his big money move away from Dortmund next summer. Should that happen, and should Dortmund have a little bit of cash to spend, Sebastian Haller is their number 1 striker target, supposedly. Now, last night's performance against Dortmund is only really going to help his case in getting that move over to Germany as well. Now, should that happen, you'd imagine it'd be for a hefty fee. While Ajax paid 20 million, I'd imagine they'll be looking to make a decent profit. Would it reach the 45 million we paid? I don't think it'd be far away from that. Even knowing that how much Dortmund have got in the bank, I don't think Ajax could command too much more than 40 million. So let's just say 40 million, they've doubled their money. And this is where it bites us in the bum a little bit, because, well, we don't have a sell-on clause. Well, it's believed that we don't. It's not believed that West Ham has a sell-on clause. It sounds like it was 20 million up front straight, because West Ham needed the money. They needed the cash flow. We're a little bit desperate. And this is where it gets a bit disappointing, really, because Ajax were desperate. Ajax were really desperate to sign Sebastian Haller, because that week they signed him, they had PSV at the weekend, and then no strikers essentially. I say strikers, they had very few attacking players. They needed someone in ASAP that could get into their squad straight away for the pivotal game at the weekend against PSV. So they were desperate for Sebastian Haller, and that's why they had to pay up front, because we were desperate for the cash. And it's just a bit disappointing we don't have that sell-on clause, really. But the reason for this video is because we do have a sell-on clause on Felipe Anderson. He's obviously in banging form in Lazio. Quick question: how do you know Felipe Anderson's in good form for Lazio? You know, West Ham social media will tell you. They don't bang on about him as much for some reason. I think Felipe Anderson's got a few West Ham fans that still look out for him, but it's not as much as Sebastian Haller. I'm not sure why that is, really. I think it's because some people feel Haller didn't get a fair crack, but Anderson did, and Anderson didn't make the most of it, kind of thing. But he's in excellent form at Lazio. And he's got a couple of goals, 3 goals maybe, 3 assists as well to his name. 1 player of the month for Lazio as well. So he's in banging form over there. Now we do have a sell-on clause for Felipe Anderson, but I'm not sure there's a big chance that he will move on like what Sebastian Haller will. I'm not sure he will ever go for big money or even leave Lazio again. He's done it, got his fingers burnt and gone back in good form. I'd recommend he stays there. I'd recommend he stays where he's good, because like I said, some players don't suit some clubs. On the other hand, some players just do suit the one club. Oh, I was going to say about Haller, I forgot. I should probably have wrote bullet points down. The one thing I will say, I wonder if COVID never happened. Now, I know, if my auntie had bollocks and she'd be my uncle and all that, I know, right? But the game before COVID, do you remember it? Southampton at home. We played mouth-watering football. We were outstanding that game. It was possibly one of my favourite games at the London Stadium so far as well. In terms of atmosphere, was good because it was an important game down the bottom of the table. But in terms of on the pitch, I thought we were fantastic. And, you know, we had Antonio, Bowen, Haller, and I feel like we had another attacking player in there for some reason. I think it was like a 4-3-3 we played. But anyway, Fornals maybe. We were fantastic. Haller was fantastic that day as well. And it was under David Moyes. And then COVID struck and it just never really happened after that. So you just never know if COVID never came. But back to my case in point. The reason for that is when we did the preview last night, myself and Gonzo, we were just talking about being linked to Genk striker and about how our transfer targets have probably changed now. Whether he was or not an original target, forget that a second. It's changed now because we've obviously got the head of recruitment come in from Manchester City. So you'd imagine our transfer strategy may be altered, our targets may be altered, in that the striker situation, Sebastian Haller might finally get replaced soon. But I hope our outgoings change as well. And I hope Sebastian Haller is a bit of a catalyst for that, really, because you'd imagine experienced head of recruitment, which he isn't. Newman is not a head of recruitment. He was sort of chief scout at Manchester City, so it's somewhat of like a promotion for him at West Ham. But you'd like to think that he would take a look at that transfer of Sebastian Haller and think, oh, what on earth have you done there? Because when you look at the top clubs like Manchester City and Chelsea, they bulletproof themselves from these kind of things. You know, remember we were after Iheanacho. We were trying to get Iheanacho from Manchester City, and he ended up going to Leicester. And one of the sticking points was Manchester City wanted to include a buyback clause on Iheanacho. So if you come to West Ham, he was dynamite, Manchester City could pick him back up for a set fee. Now that set fee had to be triggered in a certain period of time. It wasn't at Leicester, hence why Iheanacho's still at Leicester City, despite, you know, he was unbelievable at the end of last season. So he's finally shown his form. But Chelsea are also excellent at selling players. You look at Livramento at Southampton, the right back. I think he's arguably been the best right back in the league this season. Alexander-Arnold as well. But as a Southampton fan, you must sit there thinking, how long have we got to enjoy this guy? Because eventually Chelsea might trigger that buyback clause and they might buy him back, kind of thing. You've got the centre back over at Crystal Palace as well, Gay, how do you pronounce his name? Chelsea again, they've bulletproofed that deal as well. Conor Gallagher's played superb for Crystal Palace on loan from Chelsea. Billy Gilmour's at Norwich, not quite getting the game time yet, but he's impressing for Scotland in the World Cup qualifiers as well. And you know, fine, if Gilmour or Gallagher leave Chelsea in the summer, it would be for big money. But also, Chelsea will bulletproof them going forward. They will have buyback clauses, they will have sell-on clauses, and everything in there. And big clubs do that now. Big clubs just bulletproof. They've got the power, I guess, because usually clubs like West Ham and that go knocking on the door and they're a bit desperate to get those players. They have the power to say, well, hang on, we're going to do this. Kurt Zouma, granted, they didn't. But I think he's a bit different. I think Kurt Zouma's more, well, he's older, isn't he, than Livramento, Gallagher and so on and so forth. And I just want to see West Ham get a little bit wiser with selling players, because it's something we've not been great at. I've never felt we are good at selling players. I think whenever bids come in for players, we panic for whatever reason. We're just going to panic mode. We unofficially start banging out all these words and phrases, not for sale, they're never selling, this player, that player, that player. I think almost we need to embrace it a little bit. And when the debate started about Sebastian Haller, I'm not going to lie, I did think, if we had a sell-on clause for Sebastian Haller, I think I'd enjoy his form for Ajax. I think I'd actually want him to do even better by Ajax than I do. I don't really care. I'm indifferent. He does well there, good. Just crap there, also good. Does not bother me in the slightest. But I think the Sebastian Haller transfer, and this is the main reason for this video, is I think we messed up not bulletproofing it in case he was a success at Ajax, which he has been already. He's been there for 8 months now. Ajax fans were annoyed with him last season, actually. I did see there's an Ajax account I follow on Twitter which is really, really good, and he's clearly held in high regard with Ajax fans because he gets a lot of interaction and stuff. And he was saying last season that Haller, when Haller is good, he's good, and when he's bad, he's really bad. There's no in between. When he's bad, he looks really lazy and stuff, but when you play to his strengths, he's like unplayable. And I think that sums him up, really, and I think that sums him up at West Ham as well. He's one of those players that you will just sometimes look back and think, what if only. Like Ravel Morrison. Ravel Morrison was a player, undoubtedly had talent, just did not work out for whatever reason. Marko Ivanovic undoubtedly had talent, and yes, he had a much bigger influence on West Ham than what Sebastian Haller did. But sometimes you do just think, if only your brother never got involved, if only you never done that, who knows what your future at West Ham could have been. But it doesn't matter, because you'll all get told, get over it in the comments of YouTube anyway. But anyway, that's it for me, really. I just wanted to speak about that, and it was more about just how I hope West Ham use the Haller thing going forward and just get a little bit wiser at selling players, get a little bit more clever when it comes to selling players, and bulletproof us going forward, just like the bigger clubs, because we are one of those bigger clubs now. We are. We're a European team, because David Moyes was right with selling Sebastian Haller. we've got European football at the end of it. Anyway, I'm going to disappear now. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're around here. And don't worry, next time Sebastian Haller has a good game for Ajax, I'll be on social media. Catch you in a bit.